Well, I think it's kind of apropos in the first show of the new year that we bring one of our favorite guests, Mr. Riggs Eckelberry. He is the CEO of OriginOil. OOIL is the stock symbol. Riggs, welcome back.
Always a pleasure, Don.
It's always a pleasure to have you here. Now, I was just having a little bit of fun at the top of the show about the Fiscal Cliff, but I understand that one of the results of that agreement actually helps your company.
Well, you know, algae, being such a newcomer in biofuels, needed to be grandfathered into the $1.01 biofuels credit per gallon that producers get. And this is a bipartisan measure. It has wide support from both sides of Congress. And it was finally worked into this Fiscal Cliff, which I understand had all kinds of special interests in it. But in fact, this was a long-awaited rectification.
Well, I think, you know, when I look at algae's role in the future as a green energy source, I mean, it makes so much sense because we've talked about biofuel production using corn, using wheat, and that's a food stock, and that drives the price of everything up. And algae was out there representing something that we haven't really been using for any other purpose.
Algae is unlimited. It's now stepping into the $180 billion aviation fuels market. That was the news this morning. So it's got this ability to really ramp up to equal petroleum and ultimately surpass it.
It's amazing when you talk about the aviation industry, because I can remember just short 2 or 3 years ago, you were telling us on this program, well, algae will never be used for jet fuel, and yet here we are.
Well, you know, I can be made wrong, especially when it's good news for us.
Well, look, you're in good company. Bill Gates once said that no one's going to need a computer more than 512K, and look where we are now. Now, you brought us a wonderful presentation that I had a chance to preview, and you wanted us to use a couple of clips from it, but I said, this is so good, I think we should just look at it in its entirety. Let's look at that right now.
It's a dirty little secret of the algae industry that algae goes bad very fast. Once you harvest it and it's concentrated, it's like fish. I don't know if you've ever tried eating really fresh fish, you know, that's just been harvested. It's got that wonderful fresh flavor. There's no fishy flavor. It tastes of the ocean. That's what you get when you harvest algae. It doesn't smell. How algae starts to smell when it decomposes. So when you've been around algae scum in ponds and wetlands and so forth, that is the rotting algae. Well, you don't want that. What you want is the pristine, pure, clean algae, so you can have the nutritional applications, animal feed, fertilizer, and still fuel and chemicals. Why? Because you don't want the product degraded by losing the valuable oils. The amazing thing we learned was that our own process, which is energy efficient, chemical free, high rate of productivity, also kills most of the bacteria. 99% of the bacteria is killed while we're harvesting the algae, and the algae remains whole.
Then we did more experiments in which we put algae biomass cultivated with the algae appliance and harvested with a centrifuge, and we put them in an incubator. The algae that was harvested with a centrifuge only endured for a few hours. The algae that was harvested with the appliance didn't have any bacteria.
This is an amazing breakthrough because we used to think of algae producers as having to have all their processing on site. And now we can think of algae farms being cheap operations thrown up somewhere, and they generate the algae paste using our process, and they can ship it to the downstream processors, and you have shelf stability. Shelf stability creates an industry. We figured out how to take the extraordinary inventions by my brother Nicholas and reduce them to practice. That is a phase that we've been able to achieve because the team, from Nicholas, of course, in research, all the way through the engineers and the general managers, are all able to absorb this research and make it engineering practice.
Well, Riggs, that's a real Hollywood production. Congratulations on that.
Well, you know, the thing about shelf life is that it's critical to any industry. Look at what happened with food. You know, you didn't have national distribution until you fixed the perishables problem. And so algae is highly perishable once you concentrate it, and you have the choice of either processing it right on the spot or of drying it out all the way to powder, which is often not what you want. We're offering the industry now the ability to ship this distances to a processing center, and this will ultimately, we believe, create an industry.
What's the single biggest thing you hope the company accomplishes this year?
Well, we're in the middle of licensing. That's our big push right now on both the algae side and the oil and gas side. We've been making deals in the last quarter. We did a couple very strong deals, one of them being in the Athabasca tar sands, for example. But going forward, we're going to see action also out of the algae side and stuff I can't talk about that's very exciting. I wanted to say a word about the oil and gas thing because, as I was saying last week in my newsletter on OriginOil.com, Jim Rainey of Anadarko, who's a prominent speaker on this subject, says, we really need to have reuse technology. Why is that? Well, first of all, America is increasingly growing its production of oil and gas. We know that. But at the same time, Alaska is going straight down and really disappearing as an oil producing state. And there's significant opposition and problems, environmental problems and issues at the political level in places like New York. We've got to sustain this boom in the clean natural gas and so forth, we've got to have good water reuse technology. And this is going to drive a huge push, we think, in 2013 for Origin Oil.
Well, I know that we have extended our agreement to continue covering your company for several months more. We appreciate that and look forward to all these developments happening. Again, Origin Oil, OOIL is their stock symbol. Riggs, thanks so much.
It's a great pleasure.